Backed by popular demand, this episode is about why intuitive eating may not be working for you. Welcome to Confessions of a Binge Eater, the podcast helping women over 50 stop binge eating, feel in control around food, and lose weight naturally without ever needing another diet that makes you feel like a failure. I'm Tricia Nelson, a former binge eater and your host. I'm so happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive. I'm going to talk about a hot topic, and I'm excited to do it because I think there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of emotional eaters out there beating themselves up because they can't intuitively eat. Okay, what is intuitive eating anyway? Okay, let me start by telling you intuitive eating is a non-diet approach to eating that emphasizes listening to your body's hunger and fullness cues to determine when, what, and how much to eat. It involves rejecting the diet mentality, which focuses on restrictive eating patterns and the external rules for food, and instead learning to trust and honor your body's natural hunger and fullness signals. Okay, so I just read that as a definition of intuitive eating, which I will tell you I am all about. That is really good stuff, right? Here's the rub. When you're an emotional eater, it's not always easy to intuitively eat. And so what I find is many people who come to my campus, they're feeling a little beat up by conventional wisdom around nutrition and eating, one of which is intuitive eating. It's a great concept on paper, but there's a caveat. And the caveat is if you're an emotional eater, it may not pan out for you. So I'm all about listening to your body. I'm all about finding internal signals for what you should eat. I mean, only your body knows. Only your body knows. You can gather information, you can read books, you can talk to dietitians and nutritionists, you can, do a lot of trial and error, but at the end of the day, you need to listen to your body. So I think it's a beautiful concept, intuitive eating, but I will say that there's many emotional eaters out there who use this concept to beat themselves up because they can't do it. And I was one of those people. Okay. I was a person who would try to intuit what I should eat. The problem is, as an emotional eater, as somebody who wasn't in control around food, as somebody who had cravings, like a lot of cravings like all the time, had a lot of cravings, sugar cravings, somebody who was addicted to food, my cues were off. Okay. So this is the first reason why intuitive eating doesn't always work, because as emotional eaters, we've done a lot of dieting, we've done a lot of yo-yoing up and down the scale, and we've done a lot of binging, right? And so we can't really tell what's intuitively right for us. Oftentimes, the cues are so skewed because of our erratic eating. And so when we try to intuitively eat, we intuit we should eat. That's what I did. So if I listened all the time to what seemed like my body talking to me, but actually was my head and maybe my addiction to sugar talking, I'd be in big trouble. And so it's a fine line. And so I just want to dig into this in case you're somebody who can't intuitively eat and you feel like crap about it and you're beating yourself up and you feel like you're such a loser, right? We do that as emotional eaters. We emotional eaters were so mean to ourselves and we always think everybody's got it but us. So stop that. If you're not good at intuitive eating, here's why. First of all, because your cues are off. You have skewed the hunger. The hunger hormone is off. The leptin and the ghrelin, these hormones, which tell you when you're hungry and they tell you when you're full, these are not working. Okay, these are not working. And so to try to, find them within your body when they're sort of shut off, all right, the I'm full doesn't always work if you're driven in other ways, which I'm going to get to in a minute. So just know that if you've had a lifetime of disordered eating and a lifetime of binging and then starving or just grazing all day long, you don't know what's what. Okay, in which case it's going to be hard to really find your intuition. Now, another reason why you may not be able to intuitively eat is because when we overeat, we cover up our intuition. We literally cover up our intuition. We can't feel what hungry and full feels like. For years, friends, I didn't ever feel hungry. I ate all the time. I was grazing. I was nibbling all day long. I never wasn't eating because I was a food addict. I wanted to eat. I ate a lot. I didn't want to feel hungry. I was afraid of feeling hungry. This is true for us. And you probably can relate to this is to feel hunger feels a little scary. And so, we're always looking for the diet where you can eat as much as you want, right? We want to have that full feeling because we're afraid of not being full. Why? Because we might have feelings. As emotional eaters, we avoid emotions like the plague. We don't want to feel, we don't want to feel uncomfortable feelings. So we fill ourselves up and we keep filling ourselves up. And if you fill yourself up, you don't know what your intuition is. You've smothered it with food. So the idea of intuitive eating, it's not possible when you're eating all the time, when you're stuffed all the time. So that might be another problem for you around intuitive eating. Now, another problem with the concept of intuitive eating is that if you are an emotional eater, take the quiz and find out where you land on the emotional eating spectrum. If you are an emotional eater or a food addict, guess what? That fear of emotions is causing you to rationalize eating something. I mean, we're so good at this, aren't we? We rationalize eating when we're not even hungry. And so what might seem like intuition is really a rationalization. Why do we rationalize? Because again, we're afraid to be hungry. We're afraid of not being full, in which case we're always going to be running a number on ourselves, trying to convince ourselves to eat. I have done it time and time again. I still can do it. This is 35 years into my recovery path. I'm still susceptible to I'm uncomfortable. Maybe I should eat something. Now, I generally don't eat anything, thank God, but I will start to talk to myself. I'll start run a number on myself, trying to pull the wool over my own eyes by, I'm sitting at my desk. Picture this. I had a good breakfast and it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's been a couple, 3 hours since I had breakfast and I have a project I don't want to do. I don't want to do it and I want to avoid working. And all of a sudden, like, I am hungry. Oh, I'm so hungry. I start telling myself I'm hungry or I'm starving. And back in the day, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I should get something to eat. And now I know better. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, Trish, you think you're starving? Really? Let's take a look at this. What'd you have for breakfast?" "Well, I had a good, healthy breakfast. It was fulfilling. So, okay, maybe I'm not starving. Like, maybe I can wait another hour or 2 before I eat lunch." So I have to have that conversation with myself once in a while when I'm trying to pull the wool over my eyes. And chances are you are too. But why do we do this? It's because we have, and it goes way, way back, we have an innate fear of feeling. We have a knee-jerk reaction that says, don't feel at all costs. Why do we have that? Because for many of us, feeling was a liability as a kid. Many, many emotional eaters, many people who struggle with food and weight, many people with disordered eating had trouble brewing as a kid in their family life. Okay. They had parents that were alcoholic or dysregulated in some way, ragers, neglectful, abusive, whatever. We experienced abuse of some kind as children. Guess what? When you're a kid, you don't have a lot of options for how to help yourself. So I know what I did. I turned to food. I went straight to the kitchen and started eating when I had experience of sexual abuse. And I ate and ate and ate until I finally couldn't eat anymore. And I could have eaten more, but I was blessed to find a solution for dealing with the pain I was in. My eating wasn't just because I liked food. My eating was because I was in pain and food killed the pain. So as a kid, I turned to food because I had very few options for getting by and surviving what was a pretty unhappy experience. Granted, I had a lot of good things in my childhood. I had loving parents, I had a good family. We did a lot of good things. So I don't want to disparage my upbringing in any way. But there is no question I had pain and there were things happening that shouldn't have been happening. And I didn't have tools to deal with it. And I certainly wasn't talking to anybody about it. And so I sought solace in food. Now, when you're a kid, and it's painful, you're going to do whatever it takes to survive. And food was overeating was a survival skill. Now, I have to tell you, at some point, I believe, made a decision as a child that I didn't want to feel anymore. I'm like, this feeling is for the birds. This is not a conscious thought. This is just what happened. What happened was it felt too painful, too raw, too too vulnerable to feel deep feelings. So I started eating and I ate and ate and ate. By age 20, I was 50 pounds overweight because I kept killing my pain with food. That's what emotional eating is. You're avoiding uncomfortable feelings by eating. So I had a kind of deep um reaction where to feel meant to die. Okay. In my subconscious brain, it was like to feel is to die. I'm not going to feel at all cost. And so the idea, um, it for me is that intuitive eating didn't work because that innate fear of feeling would kick in when I had hard feelings, and it would cause me to rationalize eating something I really either didn't, I knew wasn't good for me, or wasn't good for me. Or that I didn't even want to eat, but I just felt like I had to eat. So when you make that decision as a kid that you don't want to feel, and it's part of you, then you will find yourself rationalizing as an adult, eating things that aren't for your highest and best good, because the fear of feeling is so great. It's so great. It makes us lie to ourselves. And we lie to ourselves by saying, oh no, I think I am hungry. Oh no, I think I should eat, even though I had breakfast 2 or 3 hours ago. Oh no, I think I can have just one of those cookies. Or, oh no, I'm going to eat just a little bit and stop. See, we lie to ourselves. We're so good at fooling ourselves, but we have to have compassion for ourselves, because we don't lie because we're bad. We lie because it's almost like a life and death thing, where to feel is to die. That's how it was as a kid. We bring that deep rooted subconscious belief forward as an adult. And as an adult, when we come across uncomfortable feelings, or even get close to uncomfortable feelings, we start lying to ourselves out of a sense of self-protection. I hope that makes sense. And I'm going kind of deep here, but that's what we do at the Heal Your Hunger Show. So the other thing I just want to bring your attention to is the idea of compulsion, the compulsion to eat. A lot of people, they don't feel like they can stop overeating because they have such a driving compulsion. What do I mean by compulsion? I mean that thing in your gut that twists and turns until you feed it. I mean, you have every intention of not overeating, and yet when that spring in your gut starts tightening and tightening and tightening to where it feels like it's going to break, you overeat. That compulsion is so great that it trumps the intuitive eating idea, okay? It overrides intuition. The compulsion is so great. It's a driving force. It's a powerful force. And this is why people go back to eating time and time again, to overeating, is because that compulsion grows and grows and grows. Where's that compulsion come from? For emotional eaters, it comes from stress, it comes from buried emotions, and it comes from habit. We have overeaten so many times, we just have a knee-jerk reaction. When you're bored, you eat. When you're upset, you eat. When you feel threatened, you eat. When you're tired, you eat. It's a habit. And so we just have this need to eat all the time. We gotta, if we're gonna heal from emotional eating, we have to retrain our bodies and our neural pathways. And we do that by not overeating one day at a time, but you got to have a way to do that. You got to have a system for not overeating. That's what I teach my clients, is a step-by-step system that has nothing to do with diets, but has everything to do with training your body and your neural pathways to not overeat as a knee-jerk reaction. But that spring in your gut that gets tighter and tighter, that comes from stress, and that comes from emotions that we're not dealing with. That's why it's so important that we get conscious, we get self-aware, we tune in and tap in to what's going on inside of us. My experience is it's hard to do that without community, okay, without being around other people who are doing it too, because we're scaredy cats. Like, I've spent a whole lifetime running from my emotions. I'm not gonna all of a sudden just tune into what I'm feeling. Forget about it. But when you're in an environment where people are doing that on a regular basis, we're supporting each other and doing that, it becomes so much easier. And what's reflected back to you on what that looks like, it's so much easier. So it's really, community is so, so important. But this compulsion thing, my experience is a lot of people, they feel like they're just going to be stuck with that compulsion, but not be able to eat their food. And that's what a diet is. A diet is take all my favorite foods away from me, and expect me to be happy. But I'm not, because then I have all the feelings and all the stress, and that creates that spring in my gut that gets tighter and tighter. And I could last like 2 weeks before I just blow and binge, and so I have to find a way to decrease my stress and to address my emotions so that spring in my gut loosens its tension, loosens the tension to where it's not there anymore. And I want to tell you, if you have that compulsion to eat, just notice it. Notice where you just feel like I have to eat. I'm not talking about real hunger where you eat a meal that you deserve to eat. You should be eating 3 meals a day. But I'm talking about that driving compulsion, that need to binge, that is irrespective of how much you've eaten that day, of the fact that you just ate an hour ago. It comes from emotion, that comes from stress. It comes from lack of connection with spirit. And it's very demanding, and it's almost impossible to say no to. So again, intuitive eating is a nice idea until you have that compulsion, until that spring is getting tighter and tighter in your gut. You must have a way to loosen that tension, to dissolve that tension. Otherwise, intuitive eating is out the window. So just to recap, the reasons why intuitive eating may not be working for you is, first of all, your cues are all messed up. Second, your emotions are making you rationalize that you should eat when you shouldn't. I intuited that I should eat all the time. Also, you have a compulsion that overrides your intuition. And as a bonus, I talked about the fact that when we're stuffed, we can't even be in touch with our intuition. It's covered up with food. So these are the reasons why, if you're an emotional eater, intuitive eating isn't going to be enough for you. It will not be enough. You need a plan for addressing and healing the underlying causes so that you can get in touch with your intuition, so that you aren't overeating and covering up your intuition anymore, right? It's just intuitive eating. It's simple, but it's very, very hard for people who are emotional eaters, who have had disordered eating for decades. And I want you to stop beating yourself up because you can't intuitively eat. Okay, so this is not for the general public. For the general public, intuitive eating is a very sound concept. For the emotional eater or the food addict or somebody with disordered eating, it's not enough. And oftentimes it's something that makes you just feel bad about yourself because you can't do it. Thank you so much. It's so good to be with you. Sending you so much love. Bye. If this episode resonated for you, I invite you to take the first step on your healing journey. Go to healyourhunger.com and you'll find a quick quiz which will tell you if you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between, by giving you a personalized score and next steps for how you can begin your healing journey. I'm so excited to support you on healing your heart and feeding your soul. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of Confessions of a Binge Eater.